Hello, hello, and welcome back to the More Money Podcast or my YouTube channel if you are watching this. This is a very special episode. This is the live recording of the Toronto kickoff event of my Everything But Money book tour presented by BMO ETFs. Now, in case you don't know, I am also an author. My book, my first ever book, Everything But Money, The Hidden Barriers Between You and Financial Freedom, came out on December 31st, 2024. So it's been just over 2 months since it hit bookshelves, and it's been doing pretty well. I think people like it because, well, it became an Indigo staff pick, and I actually know someone who used to work at Indigo. It actually is the staff picking the books, which is interesting. It also became an Indigo bestseller, a Globe and Mail bestseller, Toronto Star bestseller, Amazon bestseller, and Quill Inquirer bestseller. So there you go. I feel like that might be all of the Canadian bestseller list that I know of anyway. So that's pretty cool. But honestly, beyond that, besides bestseller lists, which are kind of nice for my ego, the best part of releasing a book is getting feedback from readers. And I've gotten so many amazing emails and DMs and reviews from real people picking up my book, reading it and saying how it changed their life or their perspective on their relationship with money, or it just made them realize, maybe I'm not bad with money. There's other things going on, which is the entire point of the book. And so part of the reason I wanted to do a book tour was so I can meet people who've read the book or want to read the book and just make things a little bit more real. And so to start my book tour, I started where I live in Toronto and was joined by the amazing Melissa Leong, who you know as the money expert on The Social. She's also an author herself. She has the book Happy Go Money. She was on the podcast back in, several years ago, but it was episode 181 that we talk about her book. But she was the best co-host MC I could have ever picked. So I'm so excited to share this recording of the event with you in case you weren't able to come, or you don't live in Toronto, or you were there and you just want to relive it again. Why not? Now, before I share everything, I just want to give a big, big thank you to BMO ETFs. They really showed up for me and have been such a support for me throughout this whole book journey. You know, I've worked with them on a number of projects and campaigns throughout the years because I really believe in their product, and I'm always talking about how great ETFs are. And I reached out to them to see if they would be the official sponsor of my book tour to help me pay for, flights, accommodation, the events themselves, all that stuff, because it ain't cheap. And they showed up and said, absolutely. And so a big shout out to BMO ETFs for supporting me and believing in me and wanting me to really, spread the word about the messages in my book across Canada. Now, if you want to learn more about BMO ETFs and what's going on with them and all of their great educational resources as well, make sure to go to bmoetfs.com or etfmarketinsights.com. They've got a lot of great webinars and videos and educational resources all about investing. So without further ado, because this is a bit of a longer episode, I'm going to stop talking and get to the main event, the Toronto stop on my cross-country book tour.
Welcome, everyone, to the Toronto kickoff event for the Everything But Money book tour presented by BMO ETFs. I'm Melissa Leong. I have the distinct honor of being your host for this special evening. I'm the resident money expert on CTV's The Social and a repeat guest on the Drew Barrymore Show. But most relevant tonight is I am a Jessica Moorhouse superfan. Yeah, let's hear it for all the superfans in the room. Woo! So I will bring out the lady of the hour shortly. We will do a discussion about the book. She'll read you some of her favorite passages or a treasured passage. We will open it up to you all to ask some of your burning questions. And then we will have book signings. So it's going to be a great night. So thank you so very much for coming. I have some very brief housekeeping notes. So the bar is going to be closed just for this section. But afterwards, it's going to reopen so you can mingle and grab some drinks and get your book signed. You will notice that with a copy of your book, there is a bookmark. And on the bookmark, there's a special QR code. It's going to help you access free book extras that you will get if you give a review, which would be so lovely. We so appreciate it. So don't forget that when you leave. A special thank you to HarperCollins Canada for helping to get this book out into the world. And a really big thank you to BMO ETFs for supporting Jessica's national book tour, because without their support, this book tour would not be possible. So thank you again, if we can have a round of applause. Okay, so I have been an admirer of Jessica's work for, I don't know, about 10 years maybe. I have stalked her because she's a powerhouse. She's fabulous. You all know because you are here. And I have forced her to be my friend so that I can introduce her and brag about her to you all and in front of her face. So Jessica is an on-air money expert, a speaker, accredited financial counselor of Canada, and the host of the More Money podcast, which now has more than 420 episodes and more than 4 million downloads. Wow, right? Amazing. Woo! And now Jessica is also a best-selling author. Woo! Because Everything But Money is a Globe and Mail bestseller, an Indigo staff pick and bestseller, and Amazon bestseller. So everyone, make the most noise you can for the amazing Jessica Moorhouse. Congratulations. Come sit. Okay. I'm gonna chill out. Look at all these lovely people. You gotta turn that on. Yeah, I had to do that too.
Hello. Okay.
Hi, everybody. So, if you have taken a peek at the book in your chair, or maybe you've perused it earlier, you will notice that the dedication. I love dedications. I always read the dedication. And I'm going to dive in because the dedication of the book says, "To my loving husband, Josh." Right?
Yeah, Josh.
Wait for it. It's going to take a turn. Wait a minute. If it weren't for you, I don't know if I would ever have gone to therapy. So, but I mean that as a compliment is what she said. So I have to ask, what is the story behind that?
Honestly, okay, the story behind that dedication was I was at kind of the tail end of editing the book, and I realized I did not give my acknowledgments or dedication. And I was in Quebec City and Montreal with my parents, and Josh were doing a little vacation. And on the train trip from Montreal to Toronto, I'm like, shoot, I have to give them something. So I just pulled up, a document, and I looked over at Josh. I'm like, this might be a little funny. And I'm like, oh, I should definitely put the part, this is a compliment, just so people don't, because, you may not know I'm sarcastic. And yeah, I just thought, oh, it's funny. But since then, I've gotten, people are like, oh my God, the dedication's so funny. I'm like, I'm glad people get my sense of humor. And he really is, such a, he really is the, why I went to therapy. He first took the plunge to see a therapist and made it seem less scary. And I'm like, okay, if he can do it, I can do it.
I was going to say, therapy is good. So
therapy's good.
Having someone that loves you and cares about you, who wants your brains to be loved and cared for is wonderful. Exactly. So, okay, your book is called Everything But Money. It is about money, but not necessarily dollars and cents. No. It's about so much more, which is amazing and fascinating. And I have to ask where the idea for this unconventional book came from.
Yeah, I mean, from a lot of different things, but I will credit my publisher for basically being like, this is the book we think you should write. Originally, I pitched a more kind of practical how-to money book. And in my proposal, there was just a sentence that said, oh, and yeah, maybe I'll touch on trauma and behavior and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, ooh, what's that? Can you write a whole book on that? I'm like, sure. And just I'm like, I'll, fake it till you'll make it. And somehow I was able to actually write a book on that topic, and it worked out. But
it's amazing. And here we are.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for doing that. We were talking backstage about how Jessica is a masterful communicator. She has this incredible podcast. You had a blog. You create all this content. And so we talked about how different that was from writing.
Yeah.
How did you find the process?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because I feel like I was very absent on social media in 2023 while I was writing this book because there was really nothing to capture. It was me in my pajamas every day on my couch. I did not write any single word of my book at a desk like a normal person. I had to be on my couch or in my bed. I had to be like this. Otherwise, I could not be creative. And I did that for 10 months while somehow balancing my normal business to make some money, pay my bills. And my editor, when I shared, I had a spreadsheet, of course, on how to keep all my chapters and notes organized. And I sent it to her also to keep track of my word count. She's like, I've never seen anyone do that before. This is a new one for me. But it really was a great way for me to keep track of, where are we going? What makes sense? And yeah, but overall, now that I'm a bit distanced from it, the writing process was like a fairy dream that was so beautiful and lovely and cozy. But the actual experience was just, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to finish writing a book. No one told me how to write a book. I said I could write a book. I hope I can write a book. And just slowly piecing things together based off of research and interviewing some amazing people from, who've listened to me on my podcast, just regular folks who wanted to share their story, and taking anecdotes and pieces from my own life and putting them in there and being vulnerable and hoping people don't think less of me for kind of sharing some of these things about my life, and putting it all together and being like, here it is. Here you go.
We love that you shared. It just made the book more alive and relatable. And was that the hardest part? Was just sort of the
oh my God,
internal dialogue happening while you were doing it?
Oh yeah. I mean, I talk about this in the book. I have the meanest inner critic. But honestly,
we all
I know.
sometimes?
Yeah, we all do. But oh gosh, and they're so loud. And which honestly, looking back, I'm like, they're pretty helpful because they're like, oh, do you have a source to cite for that? You can't just literally, I'm like, oh right, sorry, I need something to, footnote there. But yeah, no, it was an interesting process. Yeah, looking back, I think it all kind of worked out how it was supposed to work out.
I'm going to segue from the inner voice that you have, because there's something that I really related to in the book. There's this part where Jessica talks about her first money memory, and my first money memory is actually a little bit similar. So it's interesting to think about what was your first money memory. And so you start your book by talking about that, if you wanted to share what that memory is, and then talk about why that's important.
Yeah. It's so funny. I gave an early copy to my mom, and she read that, and she was like, I'm so sorry. I made you feel bad for stealing that gumball. I'm like, of course you made... I was stealing. That's not okay. It's not about you. You did the right thing as a parent. I shouldn't have stolen. But, and she's like, I do not remember that at all. I'm like, I'm sorry that it was a core memory for me for 30 years. It traumatized me, but don't worry about it. So the story when I was writing, I don't know if people know this, but when I was writing this book, I wrote it in sequence from start to finish, because that's the only way my brain knew how to operate. And I didn't really have a guide. I just would write. And that's just how it happened. Some people are like, oh, I'll put this here and I'll have a whole storyboard. I don't know how to do that. So I just wrote. And when I was writing the first chapter, and I had this idea of this first money memory, I actually didn't know what mine was until I started writing, and it just kind of came out of me. I'm like, oh my God, yes, the gumball. And so I was at the grocery store with my mom. I stole a gumball because I'm like, what's the big deal? Adults steal, little samples all the time. And then I put it in my mouth. It was huge, made my whole face blue. And my mom's like, what are you doing? Spit it out. We can't steal. That's bad. And that was kind of the beginning of my relationship with money, but also the relationship I have with money and shame, because I was, obviously ashamed of stealing, but then also just feeling like, oh my gosh, I kind of embarrassed my family for stealing and making us look like we need to steal to get the things that we want.
Isn't it interesting how we have these memories from childhood that are so powerful, and often they can be hurtful or sad or scary. And so the connection between trauma and money, I think we don't talk enough about. And so why was that something that, why did you put that sentence in your book proposal? Why was that interesting to you, important to you?
It's because I started seeing more and more people in the personal finance space talk about their childhoods and their backgrounds and connect it. And I've always been so interested in behavior and psychology with money and loved reading books just about psychology and behavior anyway. And so, and part of the reason is I have a podcast that's been around for almost 10 years. I've interviewed like hundreds and hundreds of people, and I have not really come across a book that talks specifically about this. So I'm like, maybe there's a little opening for me. And so that, and also I just wanted to learn more about this topic because I knew it could unlock a lot of things for readers, but also for myself. Because when you read the book, or if you have read the book, you know that I go on my own journey throughout this book. I'm not just telling you what to do. I literally do exactly what I tell you to do in this book because I also need to unlock some things for myself.
I think this is a misnomer where people think, oh, well, you're a money expert, right? You know everything there is to know, but I'm also a person. I'm a human being. I have my own trauma, right? That story about stealing, it was actually my mom who was doing some stealing. That's the stealing of the free stuff. You know, she would go into the bathrooms that have the nice paper towels, and she'd take all the paper towels. She's like, this is good paper towels. We could use this to clean. And my brain, when we were in that bathroom, I looked around, I was like, free tampons and free stuff. My brain was like, my mom would have a field day in here. Just the things that stick with you for 30 years, right? for decades. And so the stories that we tell ourselves. I love that your book has so many voices in it. How did you choose who to include and what stuck out for you?
It was interesting because I also wasn't sure how at first to get these stories. And I wanted to make sure I didn't just talk about myself. I wanted to make sure there was a variety of voices that people can connect to. And so I honestly just did a call out to my audience to be like, does anyone want to tell me their money story? / I'm going to ask you some very deep questions that, again, it's just between you and me, and I will change your name and some details so no one will ever know it's you. But does anyone want to talk to me? And there was a lot of people who said yes, and I'm like, that is a surprise. And I interviewed a ton of people, only a handful got into the book, that really, I think, were so unique in that if you can't relate to that, maybe it's that one. Maybe it's that one. So they're all, all of them have some sort of connection, but they're different enough that hopefully someone can see themselves in one of these people.
Okay, this might be like choosing your favorite kid or your favorite, but do you have a particular, maybe not favorite, but what story has the most resonance for you? Which one stuck out for you the most?
I'd say, and he's not here today, and I'm going to actually have him on my podcast. There is a story in the book, kind of near I think in chapter 2, when we start to talk about feelings. And he has been a longtime podcast listener. We've DM'd, we've emailed, keeping in touch. And then when I did the call out, he's like, yeah, absolutely, I'd love to share my money story with you. And so he was so open and honest to share about his background and just everything. And so it was the story about the child who got a bike for their birthday and felt awful about it because they knew that their parents couldn't really afford it. And also his dad was going to say something like, and you better enjoy that. That cost me a lot of money. And so we could never enjoy the gifts that he got because he knew about his parents' financial circumstances. And I think just because we've had this long kind of relationship of just interacting over the course of me having this podcast, it was just a really special moment to be able to connect on this deeper level. I got to know more about his story instead of him just knowing about mine and being able to put it in the book.
And what an interesting detail that he was able to open up to you and be vulnerable about and say this random thing that my parents said. Because when I read that part in the book, it reminded me of my mother-in-law who this past weekend, it was my son's birthday, and she said, I gave you a gift. I don't make a lot of money because I'm retired, so you better, be appreciative. And we didn't think anything of it, but then
You're like, that may have traumatized that child. That's
You're going to be telling the story to Jessica in a podcast 30 years from now. The other thing that I really appreciated that I loved in the book was I love factoids. I love research. That
there's a lot in there.
Yes.
I know, as a journalist,
I appreciated that. How did you go about collecting that information?
Yeah, so at first, I honestly did try to find a research assistant, and I contacted one person who's like, oh, wait, no, I can't, but I'll refer you to someone else. And they're like, oh, yeah, oh, wait, no, I'm too busy, I can't. I'm like, you know what? I actually don't have enough time to keep on going to research assistants who end up not being available. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just do a little research myself, and maybe I'll find another assistant along the way. I ended up just doing it all myself. And
It's amazing.
yeah.
If you guys flip to the back of the book, the annotations, all of the references at the back, I'm like, this is a textbook.
It was a lot of fun organizing that during the editing process and making sure everything was accurate. It took me a full week, like Monday to Friday week of making sure it was all accurate and things linked to where they were supposed to go. But no, part of it was actually great because sometimes as I was doing research and putting the puzzle pieces together, I would get another idea for a future part of the book. So I almost felt like I needed to do the research myself for me to see the full picture. Because I'll tell you, when I started writing the book, I did not know where I was going to end up. Especially the last chapter, I did not know that was going to be, I think it was like originally, yeah, I think I cut a chapter or added a chapter. I didn't know where I was going until I got there, basically.
That's an argument for the an entire generation. You need to do research. Do the research yourself.
Yeah, and we were talking about this in the green room. I did not use AI. It was all me. It was all me.
It's amazing. And I also love that in the writing world they call it, are you a pantser or are you a plotter? So I'm a plotter, which means I plot my entire book from beginning to end, but it seems like you're a pantser.
Is that like flying by the seat of my pants?
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did.
Seeing where the journey takes you. It's a beautiful process.
Yeah. And so I remember during the process, some people were like, so how's it going? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know where we're going to end up. But
it's like life. But look where you ended up. And we're all here together celebrating you.
Somehow got finished. I'm still kind of surprised.
And is a bestseller. Somehow. It's amazing. Yes. Woo! So I also love, there's something to be said when the voice is relatable, is a woman. And I think personal finance over the years has been maybe more cookie cutter. It doesn't take into account whether you're BIPOC, whether you're a woman. And you have an entire chapter dedicated to topics of privilege and discrimination, which I was like, yes. What do you hope that people take away from that particular section of the book?
I hope that people, I mean, really that whole chapter is about empathy. It really is about understanding your neighbor when you have very different backgrounds, different life experiences. Because as you know too, you've been doing this a long time, a lot of the advice, especially when I was in my 20s, the financial advice that was out there was very harsh and did not take into consideration circumstance or hey, you're different than me. It was just like, well, you just got to work a bit harder. You're not working harder. You're like, I'm working as hard as I can. I'm working 5 jobs. What do you want from me? You know? And so I really wanted to put a spotlight on the fact that we're all different and we have different challenges and we need to acknowledge that. And I, even had a hard time a few years ago when I feel like during, I think 2020, privilege started becoming, or maybe even before that, that became a much bigger topic. And I'd never thought I was privileged because I thought privilege meant you came from money. I'm like, well, I didn't come from money, so I don't have privilege. I'm like, I have white privilege. I have suburban middle class privilege. Like there's so many privileges that I had that made it easier for me to get into certain doors that other people are going to have a more difficult time. And we need to talk about that. So if you do have privilege, you can hold the door open for someone else.
Well, thank you for opening the door and making sure that you encourage that conversation. The book is packed with so many gems. We've talked a lot about different topics, and I wish we had more time to talk about everything, but I do want to get to so many other things tonight. So what do you hope that readers take away from the book?
I hope they can think about money in a way that they've never thought about it. And so far, that's what's the most exciting thing is getting messages from strangers who don't know. I love when a stranger who's like, I don't know who the hell you are, but I got your book and I read it and I thought it was about something else.
What do you mean you don't know who I am? Jessica Mora!
No, I love it. I'm like, cool. There's strangers buying my book instead of just friends and family and, people who listen to my podcast or whatever. And they're like, I had no idea that what I went through in my childhood is why I do the things I do with my money. And now it makes so much sense. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. So for me, I hope people can really connect with money in a different way, answer some questions that no other book has really been able to provide the answers to. And I think, and I talk about this at the end of the book, I really ultimately want people to feel better about their money and recognize that they are not their money. You are more than your money, which was actually the original title for this book.
it.
So more than money or more than your money. We were floating those around.
I like it.
I know, but there's 5 other books with that title, so I'm like, yeah, okay, that one's taken.
We'll put it on marketing material. It's beautiful. The title that you have is also fabulous.
Thank you.
We ended up with the best one, I think. So, I just want to have a little bit of fun before we move on. A little bit of a game, like a game show. I think I grew up watching Price is Right. I want to do this.
Yes.
Okay. Can we do some rapid fire questions?
Yes,
okay,
yes,
but
yes.
they have to be rapid. We're gonna do it fast.
Okay,
Whatever you just say, whatever is the top of your head. Ready?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, you answered the first question.
Sorry.
Was this the original title for your book?
It was not.
Okay, what's something people may not know that happened while you were working on this book?
Oh my God. There's like a few what did I not share in the book that actually happened to me? Oh, that's a great question. Okay. What would people not know that I have not shared? Oh my gosh.
Say the things you're not supposed to say.
Well, I'm trying to rack
small,
my brain. I'm like, I
intimate
feel
group
like
of
I've shared with
friends.
you. I was in
We're all
pajamas. I wrote from bed. I got severe back pain because of that. And then I had to go to the chiropractor. Yeah, I know. It was a whole thing. That was, I wouldn't recommend. Definitely use a chair next time. Gosh. One thing I don't know if I've really talked too much about, and this is like a positive thing, is it was interesting doing the audiobook because I didn't know what to expect. And yeah, you're just in a room alone with someone in another room, so you don't actually see them, and you just have voices in your ear. And I would just read. I'm like, is this okay? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay. And I did that for like 5 days. And you're just like, this is the weirdest experience. You're in a closet just reading, and to these 2, guys who were helping me record it, and me just talking about my trauma. I'm like, you having a good time, guys? Y'all having a good time? Okay.
Well, we're used to hearing your voice, so
Yeah.
I will listen to the audiobook after after this. Hindsight is 2020. Would you change anything now that the book is out on the shelves? It's too late, but
It's too late. I mean, the only thing I would change is I got my grandma's first name wrong, the spelling, and I sent the early copy to, sent an early edition to my family. So I'm like, look at my book, read it, let me know if there's anything, wrong with it. And then my mom immediately called me, and she's like, you got your grandma's first name spelling wrong. So it's Colombe, Colombe, not Colum. But here's the thing. I got it wrong because I Googled her name, found her obituary, and that's how it was spelled there. And I figured they would have gotten it right.
Fact check that.
I fact
That's not your fault.
But I should have really fact checked and asked my mom how to spell my grandma's name.
You know what? The book is doing fantastically. So
hopefully
on
it's
the
gonna
4th,
reprint and we can
5th,
fix that.
6th, 10th edition, we can correct that. Would you ever write another book after this?
Yes, but I need to live some life before. I don't know. Like, I've poured everything in there. I'm like, I don't know what else to say yet. Let me live some life and have some experiences. I think
You've drank from the cup. You just have to wait.
Yeah,
Fill up
yeah,
again,
yes.
and we will all be here for your next one.
I mean,
right?
some of the stories that I put in there were happening like there's a little anecdote I had about being in a Mexican resort, and someone being like, oh, isn't it amazing that everything's free? I'm like, well, it's not free. We all paid a lot of money to be here. That happened. Yeah, that's in the end of the book.
But no. But that person said
she's like, everything's free. I'm like, well, I mean, maybe your husband's paying for it. I don't know, but we're paying to be here. Like, it's not free. It's included, but it's not free.
It's like when people tell me their financial advisor is free.
Yeah, you're
right?
like, no.
You're like, what?
Someone's getting paid.
Oh, that's nice of them.
But I put that anecdote in. I went to Mexico with my husband as like a much needed vacation the first week of January, and I had to hand in my book at the end of January. So I literally was like, here's another story that just happened. Let's put it in there. So I need to live some life. I need to go on vacation again.
Well, thank you for all the hard work you put into this. And now we would love if you could treat us to a little bit of everything but money.
Okay. This is going to be interesting because I don't have my glasses. And I am holding this.
So are you going to hold it like this? Like one of these?
Let's see what we can do. Okay.
Do you want me to hold it like really far away?
No. We got it. I mean, I'm not blind, but... Okay. So I'm just going to read a part of the introduction because honestly, I do really love the introduction because this was the first actually piece of the book that I wrote when I submitted my proposal, and I don't think I really changed too much about it because I'm like, oh, wow, okay, here we go. So, okay. It's about everything but money. If you were to go to any bookstore right now, you would find a multitude of books about how to pay off debt, budget, and invest, all with the promise that if you follow through with their simple steps, you'll live a better life. And for some people, that may be enough. Some people may just be looking for a guide on how to pay off their debt, and once debt-free, they'll be content with their money. Some people may just be looking for an easy-to-follow budget template, outlining how best to organize their finances. Some people may not know the first thing about investing and are just looking for some actionable steps on how to get started. But for the rest of us, we need more than that. Part of the reason I decided to become an accredited financial counselor was because I wanted to learn how to dig deep with my clients. Having entered the personal finance landscape in 2011, I'd gotten used to talking with people from all backgrounds and income levels about their money issues. But conversation after conversation, one thing was very clear. Their problems weren't just about money. They were actually about everything but money. I don't want to keep on going because I don't know, where should I keep on going? I don't know. Then I'm just reading the whole freaking introduction. So I'll just leave it there. But that's a taste of the audiobook, y'all.
Thank you. I like the little teaser. I like it a lot. So we have a tremendous opportunity to ask Jessica some questions. Anything you like.
Anything. It could be about the book. It could be whatever you want.
What did you eat for breakfast this morning? I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm like, do you want to know?
We have a mic in the center of the room.
It's dark, but it's there. It's right in the middle.
Yeah, I can see it. So if anyone is feeling curious, is there anything that you would want to know about the book process, about the podcast?
Okay, you got to go up to the mic.
Does that feel intimidating? Do you want to just come up to here where I hand you a mic?
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's do that.
Hi. So I've been hearing you on every podcast that I didn't even know you'd be on. I was just wondering which one's been your favorite during this whole kind of podcast tour to promote the book.
Oh, great question. So one that's not released yet, but I just recorded it the other day. It's a podcast, an American podcast called How to Money. I'm like, what is it called? How to Money. Two guys, they have a really popular podcast that I emailed them. I'm like, they're never going to get back to me. And they were the nicest guys I think they're from Atlanta, Georgia, the cutest accents. I love an American accent. And they were so lovely and we had the best time. So that's coming out soon, How to Money.
Love it. Anybody else? Oh, I'm here now, so you can't even avoid me. I am in your face.
Hello, Jessica.
Hello.
I guess my question is about, and I think you'll know why I'm asking that question. How do you overcome the cringiness of writing about yourself and the inner dialogue that just is so hard sometimes when you write about yourself and about things that are so personal?
Oh, no, I did not get over the cringiness. No. I just wrote it anyway. So I've obviously read my book several times, but since it's been printed in book form, I haven't been able to read it. I can't read it. Now it's real and I can't go back there. I can't see what that feels like too public. But I was very comfortable reading it in PDF form. So yeah, no, I'm still cringing. I can't even imagine some of the things I put in there. Same with my family. They're like, I can't believe you put that in there. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Sorry. Hi. Is it on?
Hey, Jessica. You've hosted a lot of your own guests. I'm curious, who was your favorite guest to interview and what was the episode about?
Besides Melissa, who
say
also...
Say me.
Yeah. Besides Melissa, who has an amazing book called Happy Go Money that you should all read. Oh, gosh. You know what? I'm going to say one just that's front of mind, just because he was one of the loveliest people. Okay, there's a couple people. So my all-time favorite guest, besides Melissa, is Andrew Hallam, because he's my favorite personal finance author and is the nicest person ever. And whenever I ask him to do something like come on my podcast or, write a blurb for my book, he's always somewhere in the world. He's always traveling and he will always get back to me. But a recent podcast episode I did, which I was surprised because I didn't know anything about this guy. But his publicist emailed me saying, hey, do you want to have William Green on your show? He has a book called Richer, Wiser, Happier. He has a book called Richer, Wiser, Happier. And it's all about interviewing some of the best investors in the world. I'm like, well, that sounds really interesting, sure. And he came on my podcast. And also, I have a thing for British people. So he had the cutest British accent. I'm like, yes, please. And was the nicest, most interesting guest I've had. I'm like, wow, I'm glad I said yes to this guy. He was incredible. Yeah. So that was one of, that's on the last season of my show.
Does anyone else want to ask a question? In a British accent.
In a British accent, please.
I don't have the British accent.
You don't have to.
In today's world, we're always kind of being pitched the newest, the latest, and the greatest. And obviously, prices of so many things are going up. I think we've seen that in the, even in the designer handbag space and all these kind of insider articles coming out on how they cost, maybe $50 to make, but they're selling for thousands of dollars. How should we think about what's worth splurging on versus what isn't?
Ooh, that's a great question. One great thing I discovered about just me and my relationship with money while writing the book was redefining how I want to spend my money and how can I use money as a tool to bring me more happiness instead of thinking money itself would bring me happiness. And so there are certain things you can spend money on that will bring you more satisfaction or fulfillment or happiness. For me, it's obviously experiences, but sometimes it's a thing. So I like to spend $20 on a cocktail. I like to spend money at the gym. I like to buy kind of good quality clothes. So you really have to define it, I think, for yourself. What do you think that you'll buy, or what's something recently you bought and you're like, yeah, that felt really good. And you can go back, you're like, that feels really good. So for me, I love when I see people with a designer purse. I can appreciate that. I don't want to buy it though. That's not for me. It doesn't make me feel anything. And also I'm worried that I'll stain it or ruin it because I probably will. So yeah, that's kind of my answer.
We have time for maybe a couple more questions.
Couple more.
We're going to pass this down like a hot potato.
Here we go.
Thank you. I'm wondering if there was anything you were really hoping would make it into the book that didn't end up. It sounds like the book changed a lot during the process. So I was curious about
it didn't exist until it got on the band. I'm like, oh, okay, here we are. That was the interesting thing. We didn't do any cutting of anything that shouldn't have been in there. So we obviously edited the book because it was way too long when I handed it in. And we really only just made things more succinct because I am a blabber and wordy. So there wasn't actually anything that was in the book that we had to take out that I'm like, oh, I wish. Everything made it in, which is a very big surprise. But great question.
We have time for one more question. Yes? Yes. Oh, that's a lot of pressure, right? Because it's the last one. I'm going to walk down the center like some Jerry vibes. Woo! Jesse. Who's got one last question? You're the winner here. Oh, sorry. I do stepping in cheese.
Thank you. I finished your book already, and it was
props
amazing.
To you. Fast reader over here.
It fucked me up. Like,
oh,
honestly,
I'm sorry.
In the best way. As someone who's doing the work, I went on a walk and kind of had these things that came up, and it was amazing. I really didn't expect that. But my question is, I want to know a little more about Jess in her 20s. If you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about what resources you had. I really enjoyed those stories that you told about saving up for the mocha and how that was your little treat. But yeah, what kind of resources did you have back then, and what do you wish that you had back then?
Oh my God, in my 20s, when I look back, I'm like, no one could pay me to go back there. No one can pay me to go back there. My 30s are so much better than my 20s. 20s it was a struggle. And I know, looking back, I'm like, I don't think it was all my circumstances of I did have to work 2 jobs and then also blogged on top of that and didn't make any money and just, worked myself to the bone. But also I had the energy because I was in my 20s. But I put so much pressure on myself because I do have a bit of a perfectionism thing that I have had since childhood. I always wanted to be perfect, especially when it came to my money. And so I was so hard on myself. Now, honestly, I'm much more flexible with my budget. If I go over, no hard, we'll figure it out. But back then, if it was $5 over because I spent, some money on lunch or something, I'd be really hard on myself. So when I look back on that girl, specifically with her money in her 20s, she was very restrictive. She was very judgmental on herself and others. She was very much of, and I won't say names, certain money experts that had TV shows that were very harsh to the guests on the show. And I absorbed all that information from lots of these books and TV shows and just like the kind of tone of that time, and was very hard on myself because I thought tough love, that's what we all need, right? Until I entered my 30s and realized, wow, that was really unhealthy to think that way. And actually, I need love. I don't need tough love. I just need someone to believe in me and to guide me. And I need to be kinder to myself, and I need to be kinder to others. And that was a big inspiration for the book, is I really wanted to make sure that you felt loved and heard. And I was a bit softer than maybe some of the people in my brain that talk to me on the daily that aren't super soft. I wanted to come across the softness that I wish I got in my 20s. So hopefully that answers your question.
That was the perfect question. Ooh,
Great
thank you for the
question.
round of applause for everybody's questions. And that is honestly your voice in the book, Jessica's like that's the voice that I've needed all of my life. It's not about tough love, it's about love. We all need a little bit more
That's a good
kindness,
line.
which
I should
is
have put that
amazing.
in the book.
I'm sorry, I can't figure out how to climb back on the
I know,
stage,
I'm
so
sorry,
I'm
the stairs are
coming
way
this
over there.
way. Because I shish kebabbed some cheese over there, like with my heel. I just put my heel right through it and made like a snack. Thank you guys all so much for your questions. That was amazing. I brought you some water.
Hello.
Thank you. We're going to have a book signing right through those doors over there. But before we get up, I just wanted to make sure that Jessica had the stage to say some final words,
I've got
anything
some
she
things
wanted.
to say. I've got some. You're like, oh my God. Relax. It's just thank yous. It's just thank yous, y'all. Okay, so first, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. It's kind of incredible. It's just amazing to see all of you come. It's very cold and windy and dry out there, so thanks for making the trek out here. Thank you so much. But first, really, thank you, Melissa. I've known you for a long time, and I've looked up to you for a very long time. And I remember coming to your book launch for Happy Go Money, which was 5 years ago, and being there and being so proud of you and so excited to dive into your book and thinking, oh man, wouldn't this be cool if I got to do this one day? I don't know. And here, you just gotta be patient and figure it out. So thank you for that. Again, a huge thank you to BMO ETFs for being the official sponsor of my book tour. There are so many people on the team. Some people are here today, and I'll thank you in person. But honestly, if it wasn't for BMO ETFs, and we've been working with each other, creating amazing educational content to help people learn about the tools they need to do for investing. And so I'm so excited that we can partner on this book tour together to kind of spread the word together. I want to say a huge thank you also to HarperCollins Canada, Julia McDowell, my wonderful editor, and Cindy Ma, my publicist, who has been very busy this past month, spreading the word with me everywhere we can. And the larger HarperCollins Canada team, thank you so much for working with me, making this a best-selling book, and also believing in me, because I really, you didn't know I could write a book, neither did I. So you took a big chance on me. A big thank you as well to Jeff Lonis, my agent, and the Talent Bureau team. Again, if it weren't for Jeff, I don't know where I'd be without Jeff. He is very, very helpful, but also I know I wouldn't have ever probably gotten in the room with HarperCollins to tell them I had an idea. So this book is, you asked me in 2021, what were some of my dreams? And I kind of threw out the idea. I've always wanted to have a book. I tried shopping around a proposal in 2019. No one wanted it. And he's like, we can make this happen. And we made it happen. So thank you, Jeff. I want to say a big thank you to my amazing event coordinator, Heather Salima, for doing this incredible job putting this event together, and the amazing team at Universal Music. If anyone has been a long time kind of follower, you know me for a while, and you've gone to some of my previous events, which I did from 2016 to 2019, I did them myself with my husband, and they were a lot of work, and I will never do that again. I will always hire Heather. I'm never doing that again. And finally, I want to thank all of my friends here, all of my supporters who know me through the podcast or YouTube or social media or just found out about me on Eventbrite and you're here to support me, thank you so much. And of course, lastly, my husband, Josh, thank you so much for being my biggest #1 supporter. Thank you so much. And there you have it. I hope you really enjoyed listening or watching to that. Just a big reminder, my book, Everything But Money, is out. You can buy it or you can borrow it from the library, whatever you like. Also, if you have given it a read, make sure to give it a review online. Goodreads, Indigo, Amazon, wherever you want to give a book review online, that would be so amazing. And if you do so, if you visit jessicamorehouse.com/book, there's information on how you can get access for free to all these amazing book extras. Videos, audio, worksheets, all these things are companion to the book that previously I only made available to people who pre-bought my book. But if you want access to those, all you have to do is give me a review, take a little screenshot, send it my way. You'll get free access. Now, my book tour is far from done. I keep on adding dates. And so the best way to keep in the loop, because who knows when you're going to be listening or watching to this, is to make sure to follow me on Instagram at Jessica I. Morehouse or get on my email list. jessicamorehouse.com/subscribe is where you can do that. Well, that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.